Right now, sitting in your pocket is a piece of technology so incomprehensibly advanced that it borders on magic. If you handed the processor inside your smartphone to the greatest scientific minds of the 1950s, minds like Albert Einstein or Robert Oppenheimer, they wouldn't be able to understand how it was manufactured. They would grasp the physics of what it does, but the engineering required to actually build it would seem like the work of an alien civilization. We are talking about a microscopic universe where billions of switches, known as transistors, are packed onto a slice of silicon no larger than your fingernail. These switches turn on and off billions of times a second, translating electrical pulses into the video you are watching, the artificial intelligence you interact with, and the global financial system. If oil fuels the physical world, microchips create the reality of the modern world. Without them, commercial airliners fall out of the sky, the global banking system evaporates, the internet goes dark. Every modern military is reduced to the technology of the 1940s. They are the single most critical point of failure in human civilization. Yet, this infinite importance rests on a terrifyingly fragile supply chain. It is bottlenecked by a handful of companies, relies on technology that defies classical physics, and is centered around an island that is currently the most dangerous geopolitical flashpoint on the planet. You are living through a technological Cold War. Superpowers are desperately scrambling to secure the future of computing, willing to risk everything to do it. Welcome to the secret war for microchips. To understand this war, you must understand the mind-bending scale of the battlefield. For decades, the tech industry operated on Moore's law, the observation that the number of transistors on a chip doubles roughly every 2 years, making computers exponentially faster. In the 1970s, a chip had a few thousand transistors. Today, a flagship smartphone chip has over 10 billion. The chips powering massive AI server farms have nearly 100 billion, but you cannot cheat physics forever. To fit that many transistors onto a chip, you must make them unimaginably small. Today's most advanced transistors are measured at 3 nanometers. For perspective, a single strand of human hair is 100,000 nanometers wide. The transistors powering your life are smaller than a virus, only a few dozen atoms wide. At this microscopic scale, classical physics breaks down. Electrons literally teleport across barriers in a phenomenon known as quantum tunneling, threatening to short-circuit the chip. Designing a processor that manages this microscopic chaos is a miracle of human intellect. But here is the terrifying catch. Designing a chip is just math and software. Actually printing a 3-nanometer transistor into physical reality? There is only one company on Earth capable of building the machine that does that. If this single company vanished, human technological progress would instantly freeze. Deep in the Netherlands sits a company called ASML. Unless you work in tech or finance, you have probably never heard of them. But they are arguably the most important manufacturing company in human history. ASML builds the Extreme Ultraviolet Lithography Scanner, or EUV. It makes the Large Hadron Collider look simple. To print at the atomic level, you must use light. You project the chip's blueprint onto a silicon wafer using a wavelength of light so fine it can carve lines just a few atoms wide. But extreme ultraviolet light doesn't naturally exist on Earth. It is instantly absorbed by the atmosphere. ASML had to create this alien light artificially. Inside the vacuum of an EUV machine, microscopic droplets of molten tin are fired through a chamber. A high-powered industrial laser blasts that tiny droplet twice. The first laser flattens it. A microsecond later, a second, immensely powerful laser vaporizes the tin, turning it into plasma that briefly burns hotter than the surface of the sun. This micro-explosion emits a flash of extreme ultraviolet light. The machine does this 50,000 times per second. Because glass would absorb this light, ASML uses the flattest mirrors ever created, manufactured by Zeiss in Germany. They are so impossibly smooth that if scaled up to the size of the Earth, the highest mountain would be less than a millimeter tall. These mirrors bounce the light perfectly, projecting the blueprint onto the silicon. An EUV machine takes several 747S to transport and costs hundreds of millions of dollars. ASML holds a 100% global monopoly on the creation of cutting-edge chips. But even with an EUV machine, you need a factory, a fab, that operates with a purity that makes a hospital operating room look like a dirty alleyway. A single speck of dust can ruin a multi-million-dollar batch of chips. And that brings us to the most dangerous geographic bottleneck in the world. If you want an advanced chip manufactured today, you don't call Apple or Nvidia. They are just designers. You send your blueprints to an island off the coast of China. You send them to TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. TSMC manufactures over 90% of the world's most advanced microchips. Their engineers work in clean rooms so sterile the air is constantly replaced. The factories sit on massive shock absorbers so the microscopic vibrations of passing trucks don't ruin the atomic alignment of the lasers. They operate with a brutal efficiency that Western companies have entirely failed to match. But TSMC's absolute dominance has created a geopolitical nightmare. Taiwan is a self-governing democracy, but the Chinese Communist Party views it as a breakaway province, explicitly stating intentions to reunite, by military force if necessary. If China were to blockade or invade Taiwan tomorrow, the global economy wouldn't just enter a recession, it would experience a catastrophic depression. Without TSMC, Apple has no iPhones to sell. Nvidia has no AI chips. The global automotive industry would shut down entirely. Military supply chains would dry up. The US government estimates the loss of TSMC would wipe trillions of dollars from the global economy in the first year alone. This terrifying reality has led to the Silicon Shield doctrine. The theory is that Taiwan's dominance makes them too valuable to destroy. If invaded, TSMC's factories would be sabotaged or rendered useless without Western software and Japanese chemicals. By making the world completely dependent on their island, Taiwan ensured its own survival. The United States cannot afford to let Taiwan fall, and China cannot afford the economic suicide of a destroyed TSMC. But the United States is no longer willing to leave the modern world's fate to a single island sitting miles off the Chinese coast. We have entered the era of the chip war. Recognizing this massive national security threat, the US government passed the CHIPS Act, injecting tens of billions into the economy to desperately incentivize companies to build cutting-edge fabs on American soil in places like Arizona and Ohio. But building a fab takes years and a highly specialized workforce. You cannot simply buy your way out of a silicon bottleneck. Simultaneously, the US went on the offensive. Knowing AI will dictate the 21st century, Washington implemented the strictest export controls in modern history, banning the export of Nvidia's most powerful AI chips to China. They went further, using geopolitical leverage to ban ASML from selling their cutting-edge EUV machines to Chinese tech companies. The goal is clear: choke off China's ability to develop advanced AI and military hardware by physically starving them of silicon. It is economic warfare disguised as trade policy. But China is not sitting idle. Faced with massive sanctions, Beijing is pouring hundreds of billions into their domestic chip industry. Locked out of the 3-nanometer magic, they are instead rapidly dominating the market for legacy chips. These are the slightly older chips that power your microwave, your car's anti-lock brakes, and the guidance systems of artillery shells. By flooding the market with cheap, subsidized legacy chips, China aims to create a new dependency. If the West controls the cutting edge of AI, China aims to control the fundamental electronics that keep society functioning. We are witnessing the fracturing of the global supply chain. The days of a unified tech industry are over. The battle lines are drawn. On one side is a fragile alliance of American software, Dutch lasers, German mirrors, and Taiwanese manufacturing magic. On the other is the state-backed industrial might of a rising superpower determined to break its reliance on the West. The stakes could not be higher. Whoever controls the flow of microchips over the next decade controls the future of artificial intelligence. And whoever controls AI will dictate the global economy, the balance of military power, and the next phase of human evolution. The next world war will not be fought over access to oil. It will not be fought over territory, or religion, or gold. It is being fought right now, in secret, over microscopic pieces of sand, engineered to a perfection that borders on the divine. And if the supply of that silicon stops, the world, as you know it, simply turns off.
Thanks for watching Macro Explainer. Subscribe for more clear breakdowns.